So welcome back. Are you able to see this interface,
Yes,
everyone?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is a lecture number, I think this is 12.
Yes, sir.
And in today's lecture, I'm going to talk about multivariable sliding mode. And this lecture is very much important. Why? Because most of time, if you see any physical system, they have more than one input and more than one output. So somehow we have multi-input, multi-output system, and we have to design some kind of control system such that either we can stabilize that particular system at the equilibrium point, or we have to solve some kind of tracking problem. So if you see the literature in the direction of multivariable case, then we have very much limited resource. Most of time people are just talking about this single input case, but we have certain well established way to extend the result of single input case to multi input case. And in today's lecture, basically I am going to highlight that particular result, and based of my knowledge, that result is actually given by Professor Utkin. So I am going to follow the same methodology whatever given by Professor Utkin. So before starting this lecture, let us try to revise whatever we have learned till now. So what we have seen, that I have some kind of linear time invariant system, and this system is uncertain also, means we have certain kind of uncertainty, and most of time we have seen that I am going to talk about very limited class of uncertainty. Why I am telling this limited class of uncertainty? Because I am going to assume that whatever uncertainty that is going to enter inside the system, that is through the control channel, and that class of uncertainty is called meshed uncertainty. And I will tell you that proof of this, that why sliding mode control is only able to reject meshed uncertainty. From the intuition we have already understood that if something in direction of control, and if our actuator is sufficiently strong, then by tuning gain of controller or gain of on off controller or sliding mode controller, I can compensate it. And due to that reason, we are telling that okay, sliding mode control is very much comfortable with respect to this class of uncertainty, that is meshed bounded uncertainty. And in next class, what I am going to do, that we are going to see that if apart from this uncertainty, if another class of uncertainty comes into picture, then what is our situation. So that we will see, means we are also going to see that if unmatched uncertainty comes into picture, then what is my situation. So what we found till now, that I have some system like LTI system I am telling. So x dot t equal to axt plus but, and here I am assuming some kind of uncertainty. So in today's class I am going to generalize this uncertainty. Till now I am just assuming that this uncertainty is depending on the time only, that is not depending on the state, and in today's lecture we are going to generalize it. After that, we are assuming that this uncertainty, now I have multivariable case. Due to that reason I am using norm. You can take any norm, that doesn't matter. And supremum over this, I am assuming that basically bounded by something d0. Now what is my goal, that we are assuming that xt basically belongs to Rn. So I have n number of state variable, and B belongs to Rm. So till now we have seen this, and whenever we are writing uncertainty in this form, it means that all uncertainty is going to enter through the input channel. So if you remember that classical control theory, then A is called system matrix, B is called input matrix. So if you see the uncertainty, that is just going to enter through the input channel, and due to that reason I am telling this as a matched uncertainty. Since here I have just m number of control, so in previous class what we have found that if I define some kind of transformation on that particular x to z, I will get this kind of z, where we are assuming that this transformation is somehow non-singular. It means that I can also able to define this particular thing, and what we found that I am able to transform this system like z1 dot equal to a11 t is inherent here, z1 t plus a12 z2 t plus z2 dot t plus a21 z1 t plus a22 z2 t plus I have ut plus dt. And we have also seen that transformation I can define in many ways, and I have told you that this particular structure is basically suggested by Professor Utkin, that easily one can, by knowing this formula also, one can able to design this kind of transformation, where what kind of assumption he has, that B equal to B1 and B2. And here, since this, if you see the structure, so in this particular structure I have this matrix A. This matrix A is basically belongs to Rn cross n, and this is Rn cross m. So what he has suggested, you can actually represent this matrix like B1 B2, where B2 is basically n cross m matrix, and B1 is rest one, that is n minus m cross m matrix. And after that, if you define this kind of transformation, and we have also learned that even if we are not knowing this formula, then how to adjust unity matrix and gain and able to transform this system like this particular system. In previous class, what we are assuming that Z2 is just belongs to R, since I have only one control input. But most of time that is called single input case. But most of time I have multi input. So in multi input case, how to design some kind of algorithm such that in finite time I will converge to the equilibrium point, that we have to explore. So till now what we found that, suppose if I have something like x dot equal to some quantity, you can assume ax plus bu, and even if I have dt, or more generally you can assume that you have d, t, x and u, and if this is bounded, and you can also write this bound, since I am assuming just a scalar case, x belongs to R, and I am assuming that this particular thing is bounded like this. Here I have just used absolute value because I am assuming that x belongs to R. Due to that reason, this is only absolute value, that is not norm. And like this, since a scalar case, so a norm is replaced by absolute value, and after that alpha some function of tx, and after that we are also assuming that this particular function alpha tx is always positive. We are assuming that. So this part basically I can assume that this is uncertain, but that is bounded and positive. We are assuming. So I am replacing this kind of things, and what happens, k whenever you are choosing, then you have to become little bit careful. K1 should be greater than 0, but that is less than equal to 1. Otherwise, whatever, because this part is uncertainty part. So if you apply some kind of control, and if k1 is greater than 1, then what happens? Uncertainty is going to scale out my control input. So I cannot able to control the system. And due to that reason, people are assuming that whatever k1, that is lie between 0 to 1. So that kind of assumption we are doing, and it is possible to show that this assumption is always satisfied, because I can able to separate uncertainty into two parts, some known part or unknown part. In yesterday class we have already observed this, how one can actually separate uncertainty into known part as well as unknown part. So that is not a difficult thing. So basically you can see that I am generalizing something here, and after that if you design control u, that is basically 1 by b, and after that minus ax and minus k signum x, and you can see that this is basically a scalar case. So again, by same analysis I can able to tell that I have system, and like this x dot equal to minus k signum x and plus some kind of disturbance, that is function of x and u, and somehow this is bounded. So I can select this gain k such that that is going to dominate over this, and again I am able to write xt equal to 0 for all t greater than equal to t. So this is for a scalar case. So for single input case I have already well known result, and based on this result I have also seen that if I have single input second order system, single input nth order system, then how to design sliding mode control. In previous class what we have observed that if z2 belongs to R, then and z1 is Rn minus 1, then also how to design sliding surface by defining s equal to c1 x1 plus z2, and after that we have to just again apply same kind of methodology whatever I have discussed here. Now most of time I have told you that I have multivariable case, so I have to extend this result for the multivariable case. Then this design become more realistic, because I have told you that most of system or complicated system has more than one input, and due to that reason multivariable case is very much relevant in terms of practical implementation. So now what I am going to do, I am going to again carry out the same system. First we will see for linear system, and after that obviously we can extend this for nonlinear system, and at that time I have semi-global stabilization. So let us start with same system, axt plus but and plus, suppose I have this kind of uncertainty, and I have told you that I am going to talk about some generalized kind of uncertainty in today's lecture, and I am assuming again xt belongs to Rn and ut belongs to Rm. Ut belongs to Rm, and what is assumption? I have assumption like this. Assumption I have, first assumption is dtx u, that is written like this, zeta txu. Could you please tell me why I have written this assumption? Because I have to design sliding mode control, then why I have written this assumption? Anyone? Ruchi, could you please justify why I am taking this kind of assumption?
No, sir.
Anyone? Saptik?
Yes, B will be common, take common and matched and
Yeah. Due to meshed, because sliding mode control is only able to reject meshed uncertainty. Due to that
so
reason,
it
this
is included with input. So to show that we can express in this manner, so that we can get B common and it will become
meshed uncertainty.
that. Yes.
So due to that reason, Ruchi, are you able to understand this answer means assumption?
No, sir.
So actually, what again come back to the means initial stage of this lecture. What I'm telling that you can see here that sliding mode control is only able to reject full rejection. I am talking about the meshed
Yes, sir. Not
uncertainty.
last. Yes, sir.
So I have to replace, if I have some uncertainty, and if we are telling that I am going to reject that uncertainty completely using sliding mode control, then we have to express that particular uncertainty in this form. Otherwise, partial compensation is only possible. And why that is the case? Physically, I have given you one example of bicycle where I have two things to control. Either I can do pedaling or apply brake. So what we have found that if some
Sir,
friend is
got sir.
and due to that
Yes,
reason, uh,
BCom.
this assumption is required, because
Yes, sir.
actually whenever you are writing papers, and at that time whenever you are writing some assumption, you have to write that why this assumption is relevant for your problem. Otherwise people start questioning, and that question may suppress your research work. Due to that reason, whenever you are writing some uncertainty, you will give clarification that why this kind of uncertainty we have just written. And obviously we will generalize, if this condition will not satisfy, then what kind of things basically comes into picture, sliding mode will work or not work, we have to analyze that in the next lecture. After that, so this form is not only enough, we have to make another assumption also, because here we are unable to understand that this dtxu is bounded or not. B is constant matrix, so now I can tell that if this is bounded, zeta txu is bounded, then obviously dtx is also bounded. And due to that reason, I am going to put second assumption. So second assumption is that since this is now vector case, because dtxu is vector quantity, now I am assuming that dimension of d is same like the dimension of u. And due to that reason, this is again, it might possible in the worst case, this d belongs to Rm. It might possible that will lie in lower dimensional space also, less than it might possible d just belongs to Rp, and p is basically less than m. Then also complete compensation is possible, because their dimension is lesser than the dimension of the control input. But we have to express in this form only, otherwise it is not possible. Now you can see that I can able to write some kind of estimate, and again this kind of things comes into picture, alpha tx. You can see that always I am separating control. Why that is? Why that I am doing? Because uncertainty may be amplify my control, and due to that reason, this assumption basically telling us that whatever uncertainty, that is not going to amplify my control. And due to that reason, again one assumption comes into picture. I am assuming that k1, that is greater than 0 but less than 1. It means that using control, if k1 is greater than 1, what happens? That this uncertainty is going to scale out my control, and whatever control I can apply, uncertainty part is larger than that. I am not able to compensate, and due to that reason this assumption is very much important. And after that I have this kind of assumption, and I am assuming this kind of things, obviously, that is greater than 0 for all x. Anyone has confusion? For all x and for all t, so together whenever we are writing, then we are writing for this. So I am assuming that for all t and x this is greater than 0. So this kind of assumption, two assumptions we have. Are you able to understood these two assumptions? Anyone has confusion on these two assumptions? Okay, if you have confusion, then again you can ask me in between of the development. So we are assuming this. Now you can see that I have to basically design sliding surface, and after that I have to make sure that in m dimensional case again I can achieve finite time stability to that sliding surface. Because what we have learned till now, that if I have two-dimensional case x1 and x2, then in order to do complete rejection of disturbance, first I have to converge to the sliding surface s equal to 0. That is our main objective. So I have to prove that from here to here, whatever phenomena that is going to occur, that should be in finite time. And once that is on sliding surface, it might possible that may be asymptotic or finite time or any other another kind of property. But this is necessary. We have to show that from any initial condition to this chosen sliding surface, one can reach infinite time, and that is called reaching phase. So we have to generate some kind of necessary condition for that, such that I can able to give guarantee that I am able to reach from here to here in finite time. Now if you design this kind of sliding surface in this particular space, you can see that this is n dimensional space and I have just m dimensional control input. Due to that reason, and you are able to understand that dimension of this sliding surface is exactly same as dimension of the control input, and due to that reason I am going to define sliding surface sigma using this kind of thing, s into x. So here what is our observation, that this belongs to Rn. What is dimension of sigma? Anyone? What is dimension of sigma? Sigma is the sliding variable I have defined. M. Because I have already told you that dimension of sliding surface should be equal to the dimension of the control, and due to, since I know the control input, I have m number of control. Due to that reason I am assuming that sigma has same dimension. Now could you please tell me that what is dimension of this S?
M cross n.
So this is m cross n. It means that I have basically that this particular quantity, suppose I have after regular form transformation, if I am telling that regular form transformation will give me Z1 and Z2, then what is my assumption? Since Z2 is Rm and this is Rn minus m, it means that I have something like this multiplied by Z1 Z2, and I have to adjust everything such that final dimension is Rm only. So you can see here Z1 is n minus m and Z2 is m. So could you please quickly tell me that what is dimension of S1 and S2? Varda?
Yes, sir.
Could you please tell me that what is dimension of S1? Are you able to get my question or not? Here
Yes, sir.
you can see
Yes.
that sigma is Rm, S x is Rn. Now I am asking that what is dimension of S1? Because you know the dimension of Z1 after regular form transformation. You know the dimension of Z2. So what is dimension of S1? Because you have to do multiplication of S1 with Z1. So could you please guess the dimension of S1?
N minus M.
You can see that M should be there. Otherwise, dimension mismatch happens.
Yes, sir.
And
M.
after that is multiplying with this. Due to that reason, this is N minus M. Anyone has confusion on this?
No, sir. No, sir.
Now, Varda, could you please tell me what is dimension of S2?
M. M cross M.
Okay, M cross M. Okay. And in this way, due to that reason, now I am able to write sliding surface like this also, Z2. Anyone has confusion on this? And now you can check this. The multiplication of this is in Rm, multiplication of this in Rm, and one we are not writing like that. So in this way I can choose the dimension of or constant associated with Z1, and in the one of the best case you can assume S2 as a identity matrix also. So if you select S2 as a identity matrix, then my sliding surface can looks like Z1 plus Z2. Okay, and where Z is basically M cross M matrix, M cross M identity matrix. Anyone has confusion on this choice? Because this is very important to understand whenever you are going to do design of sliding surface. Anyone has confusion on this? Okay, I am assuming that there is no confusion. After that, what I have told you that in this m dimensional space, suppose now I am representing this Z2 and this as a Z1 and this as a Z2. Now Z1 and Z2 is not a scalar. So I am not able to draw n dimensional space. Due to that reason, I am going to draw some kind of a space where I am assuming that this belongs to basically Z1 belongs to n minus m and Z2 belongs to Rm. This kind of a space I am telling. And I am going to define some kind of sliding surface in this particular space. That is not line, some other thing, but for simplicity, I am going to denote that as a line. And this is, I have to force sigma equal to 0. So if you start, so we have to force sigma equal to 0. And sigma is now no longer a scalar. Sigma is also that belongs to Rm. So now question is that how to design U such that I can able to generate this kind of objective. So I am not worrying about this motion. I am just worrying about this motion that is called reaching phase. So I have to select U such that I can able to ensure sigma equal to 0. That is my objective in finite time. So for all t greater than equal to t. So in multivariable case, now I have to design some kind of algorithm such that I am able to converge to this particular manifold. Manifold means lower dimensional space for us. So this is called lower dimensional space is called manifold. And since in this manifold trajectory we are assuming that by design we are going to slide our trajectory. Due to that reason, this is called sliding manifold. So manifold means lower dimensional space. Now you can see that it means that somehow if you define some kind distance kind of function or some kind of Lyapunov function, then that distance function should be contain function of sigma, and that should be always greater than 0. That distance function at sigma equal to 0 should be 0, and distance function should satisfy some kind of inequality like gamma d power half or something, or some kind of alpha you can tell. So this kind of things I have to prove. Then only I can able to make sure that this variable sigma equal to 0 in some finite time t greater than equal to t. Anyone has confusion on this? Why I am telling again d, whatever d we are telling, that d should be mapped from Rm to R, because in m dimensional space I am not able to apply some kind of inequality. I am just able to talk about equality in m dimensional space. So we have to map again using some kind of distance kind of function or energy kind of function. I have to map m dimensional space, because now I am not worrying about whole space. I am just worrying about that in finite time I have to reach towards this space, sigma equal to 0, and sigma is Rm. So I have to just worry about Rm space. But we are doing analysis in n dimensional space. Anyone has confusion on this? Are you able to understand this part? Why I am writing this part? Abhishek?
Sir, can
Yes,
you
yes,
can you explain D dot?
Okay, what is confusion? Please tell me again.
The last one is D dot less than equals to minus R degree power by 2.
Gamma is some kind of positive quantity. Why I am
Gamma, yes.
telling, in previous class or previous, when perhaps in second or third lecture, I am talking about finite time stability. Okay, and finite time stability, if you remember, then I have told you that please calculate the time of convergence when d power is satisfy this kind of inequality.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if this
Got it.
kind of inequality will satisfy, then I can able to give guarantee that d equal to 0 in finite time. Okay, and
Gamma.
basically d equal to 0, what is meaning of d equal to 0? Sigma equal to 0 from second point, because we are defining function in such a way such that d equal to 0 also implies sigma equal to 0. So this condition is if and only if condition. If d is 0, then sigma is 0. If sigma is 0, then d is 0. So from this second condition, I am telling that if d is 0, so this differential inequality is telling that d equal to 0 in finite time, and second condition is telling that sigma equal to 0. Anyone has confusion now? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, so now my job is very simple. I have to express everything in terms of sigma, and after that I have to define some kind of a scalar function in terms of sigma, such that I can achieve this kind of objective. So let us try to go ahead how to do that. So in order to perform this kind of analysis, now I am going to write everything in terms of sigma. So sigma I have defined s into x, and I have to see the rate of change of sigma. Since x is changing with respect to time, s is some kind of constant matrix. For simplicity purpose, I am assuming that s is constant matrix, not state dependent matrix. But you can also take state dependent matrix, but analysis become very much complicated. So I can calculate sigma dot s is constant matrix. Due to that reason, s dot doesn't comes into picture, and after that I have x dot. So t is hidden everywhere. I have told you that this is implicit everywhere. And you know what is x dot. So when I have started this analysis of multivariable case, at that time I have started with this particular system x dot equal to axt but dt x and u, and I have already assumed that dtx can be expressed like this. So what you can do, you can just substitute that kind of x dot here in this particular place, and that particular place is basically s x dot, and due to that reason I am writing that this is s, and x dot is axt plus but plus b and zeta txu by assumption. Up to here anyone has confusion? Now what I am going to do, I am going to design some kind of control action. So in order to design control action, I have to do some kind of substitution of u. Since this part is known, I am assuming x is known to me, so a is known to me, s I have designed, so s is known to me, a is known to me, b is known to me. So I can select control, and control selection is little bit tricky. So first you have to assume that I can select like this. Whenever I am designing control, I have told you the one condition. Control should be present. So I have to assume that after multiplication of s and b, that is not singular, that is always non-singular, and due to that reason we are telling that SB is basically invertible. So I am assuming that whatever control I am going to design, that is, since I have somehow get some kind of a structure which finally I am able to transfer like this distance kind of function, and due to that reason I have to do certain kind of selection. So first I am going to write, you can believe on me, and after that I will explain you why this kind of selection basically comes into picture. So SA, and after that negation of this, and after that I have, because you have to cancel this, and I need some kind of supporting term again, and due to that reason I am going to define some matrix phi, and I will tell you that how to define this matrix phi, and after that S into xt. And apart from this I have to again add one more term, that is SB inverse, and another term I am going to write, since I have to compensate this particular uncertainty, and we know the uncertainty zeta is basically retained like means modulus of this is basically retained like k mod u plus alpha tx. So you can see that uncertainty is a still function of t into x, and due to that reason I am going to select some kind of term, and again this term is a scalar one, rho, that is function of t into x. So since uncertainty is function of x, due to that reason I cannot able to take the constant gain if we are going to talk about global stabilization, and due to that reason I am assuming that rho tx is basically such kind of gain which is a state dependent gain, and that is going to dominate over second term, because k into u, and k is lie between 0 to 1. So by designing u I can able to dominate over this term. So in order to do dominancy of alpha tx I am going to multiply with this, and I am assuming that rho tx is always positive, and obviously I will calculate condition on rho tx, and after that what I am going to do, I am going to multiply this with p2. P2 is again some kind of matrix, I will tell you the property of this matrix, and I have sliding surface sigma, and P2 into sigma like this. So I am going to apply this kind of control. You try to see here, I have already told you that in a scalar case, try to see the scalar case, then you are able to guess why I have retained this kind of things in vector case. You can see that whenever I am dealing with a scalar case, I am going to compensate those kind of term which is known to me, and due to that reason some known part comes into picture, and after that I am going to apply on off. So in a scalar case I have already told you that one can also define this as a x by mod x if x is not equal to 0, and x is 0, then I have to define this signum x between -1 to 1. Even if that will not define, we will not define x equal to 0, but definition of x not equal to 0, x equal to 0 is not going to affect my analysis. Why? Because definition is available for both sides, x greater than 0 and x less than 0. So similarly, whenever you are moving from a scalar to vector case, now what we are going to do, since vector case, now initially whatever state, and since dimension of control and state is equal, due to that reason I am going to multiply here with 1. But now dimension of control and state is not equal, and due to that reason some multiplication is required. And if you see this, so same kind of things people has basically, or Utkin has done here. So basically this structure, you can see that something is known, and due to that reason SA they are going to apply, but in order to maintain stability they have added some extra term phi into S. And you know what is S? Now I have to define phi and P2. And P2, since now basically that this particular quantity U belongs to Rm, so in order to maintain similar same kind of structure like switch and gain, we are going to define like this. We are not worrying that when sigma t equal to 0, then what is the definition. We are just worrying that if sigma greater than 0, then what is my definition, sigma less than 0, what is my definition. So this control, since here you can see that this is nothing but some kind of unit vector, because some quantity and divided by some kind of quantity. So this control is also called unit vector control. So this is called unit vector control, because unit vector is involved inside this particular structure of control, and it is possible to show that due to unit vector only rejection comes into picture. Complete match disturbance rejection comes into picture. Now you have to check what is phi, how to design phi, how to design P2. So one guidelines is actually provided to selection of phi and P2, that is basically given like this, that is P2 into phi plus I have phi transpose P2, that should be identity, negative of identity. So this kind of guidelines, and I will prove that why this kind of guidelines is basically required to selection of these two quantity phi and P2. So now you can see that everything is known to me. Inside control I know S because I have designed sliding surface, B I know from the system, A I know from this system, phi I know that is going to satisfy this kind of equality, and this is matrix. And try to see the dimension here. You can see that basically phi, whatever phi, that is multiplied with S, and we have already seen the dimension of S. Here when I am going to discuss about this, at that time I have told you that dimension of S is m cross n. Now if you know the dimension of S, then from here you are able to guess the dimension of phi also. So could you please tell me what is dimension of phi? Because you know the dimension of this is basically this belongs to R m cross n, and x belongs to n cross 1. So could you please tell me the dimension of phi? Nidhi, could you please tell me what is dimension of phi? Quickly please. Hello.
M cross n.
Yeah. So dimension is m cross m. Why? You can see that dimension of u is m cross 1. So finally after multiplication that should become m cross 1. I know S, that is m cross n. I know xt, that is n cross n. So after multiplication that is m cross 1, and m is going to cancel out, again m cross 1. So always you have to make sure that dimension should be matched. After that here again you know the sigma. What is dimension of sigma? That is m cross 1. So what is dimension of P2? Anyone? What is dimension of P2? So that is m cross m. So now this is m cross m, and due to that reason here you can see that dimension of P2 is also m cross m, dimension of phi is also m cross m. This equation has certain specific name. This is called Lyapunov equation. Lyapunov equation. And due to that reason, if you see today's mail, I have sent you 4 to 5 recorded lectures which is going to deal with Lyapunov equation. So I do not have time to discuss each and every part of Lyapunov analysis, but actually Lyapunov analysis is very much helpful tool. And due to that reason, what is my request? Please go through all lectures, make handwritten note and upload. I have already provided the link. Okay, so please take your time up to 26 and try to upload all lectures. Whatever, in this way you are able to understand Lyapunov analysis. And Lyapunov analysis, whenever you have nonlinear system or linear uncertain system, using Lyapunov analysis you are able to give mathematical guarantee. And today I am going to cover some part. So now you can see that control design, I have already defined control, and control you can define in any way. Now after substituting this control, I have to see the closed loop system. So try to write the closed loop system now. So you can see that now sigma dot is, again I am going to repeat, that is S into AXT plus SB into UT and plus SB into zeta TXU. Am I right? This kind of expression is correct. I have just
Yes, sir.
written multiplying with S, and after that now I am going to substitute
Yes, sir.
U. So you are able to understand why I have multiplied with SB inverse. If I multiply with SB inverse, then you can see that basically term with control is going to cancel out, because SB is there, SB multiplied by SB inverse. What is that? That is an entity. And after that U, second term of control U, you can see that that is S into A into XT with negative sign. So basically that is going to cancel out. And finally after that I have second term, that is phi S into XT. So what is this multiplication of these two quantity phi into XT? Or I will write one more time, then that become clear. So phi S into XT. So after applying control I am writing now. And second part, what I have defined, I have rho Tx. This is a scalar quantity, so either you can write anywhere, that doesn't matter. And after that I have basically SB inverse, because in that way I have defined this SB inverse. So SB inverse is basically gone. So now there is no need to write SB inverse, because that is multiplied with SB. And I have now basically P2, and after that P2 multiply with sigma t and P2 sigma t and norm of this. And after that I have this uncertain things that is going to remain as it is, and I have SB zeta TXU. So anyone has confusion on this? Do you have any confusion up to here?
No, sir.
Okay, so now let us try to see that multiplication of S into XT. What is that? I have defined that as a sigma. So finally basically sigma, somehow everything I have to convert in form of sigma. So due to that reason I have intentionally put this kind of things phi S inside the control input. And after that I have rho Tx P2 into sigma t by norm of P2 into sigma t. So this kind of structure I have, and after that I have this kind of term SB zeta Tx and U. Now you can see that I have this kind of system. I have to make sure that this particular system is somehow finite time stable. It means that I have to show that sigma equal to 0 for all t greater than equal to t. And sigma is basically belongs to Rm, m dimensional space. and due to that reason I have to define some kind of function, that is energy like function or distance like function I have told you. So I am going to define V, that is basically one can given like this. So you might have seen that whenever I have a scalar case, at that time how basically I am defining the distance. I am defining s square, something like half s square, something like we are defining. But now sigma is no longer a scalar, that is vector, and due to that reason I can either define like sigma transpose sigma, and if you write sigma transpose sigma, then what happens? Sigma is basically m cross 1 matrix, so this become R1 cross m, and sigma is R m cross 1. So what is dimension of this? What is dimension of this? 1.
1 cross 1.
1 cross 1. So basically V is 1. So this is one kind of definition. So here you can also able to see that here I have, if you just write in between some kind of identity matrix, and this dimension of identity matrix m cross m, still our dimension remains the 1. If you see the identity matrix, what kind of observation do you have? What is eigenvalue of this identity matrix? Suppose you have some identity matrix, then what is eigenvalue of that identity matrix?
So 1.
1, and 1 is always positive. Okay, so if you can substitute, if you generalize this kind of things, in place of identity matrix you try to put some kind of matrix that has always positive eigenvalue, then it is possible to show that distance still remains positive. So generalization of this is basically like this: function of sigma, sigma transpose, and basically P sigma. And P here, it is possible to show that if that matrix is positive, positive means somehow we are enforcing that all eigenvalue is positive. Symmetric, definite. And if you heard the lecture, then you are actually, I have made one explicit lecture on positive symmetric definite matrix, that is actually online available on YouTube, and I have already sent a link of that. It is possible to show that if you have some kind of a square matrix, then a symmetric part, any matrix can be written as a symmetric matrix as well as symmetric matrix. So a symmetric part doesn't going to play any role. So why I will select asymmetric? Then it is better that I will select symmetric, and due to that reason, motivation to select symmetric. And after that I have to maintain this quantity that is always greater than 0, and due to that reason positive word comes into picture. So in order to save time, I am just, you can believe on me, you can select any positive symmetric definite matrix for generalization of this distance or generalization of energy. Anyone has confusion? Have you understood the motivation or not? Somehow I have to maintain this quantity equal to 0, and in literature it is already proved that people has already proven that if P is positive symmetric definite matrix, then V always remains positive for all sigma. So this is greater than 0 for all sigma, and it is also possible to show that this equal to 0 when that is 0. So you can see that whatever condition that is required for the distance or for the energy, that is satisfied. Now just what kind of condition I have to enforce? I have to enforce somehow, I have to check that V dot along the sigma dot, that should be less than some quantity gamma, and V power alpha, where alpha lie between 0 to 1. If we are able to show this, then I can able to claim that V equal to 0 in some finite time t greater than equal to t. And due to that reason, now I have to take derivative of this particular distance like function or energy like function. So please do the derivative. Up to here, anyone has confusion on motivation? I haven't given the mathematical proof, but mathematical things, why that is positive, that is given in online lecture. So if you heard that lecture, you are able to understand that why, if this is positive symmetric definite matrix, then why this is always positive. Now let us try to do the derivative of this. So V dot, I can write, since P and P is some kind of positive symmetric definite matrix, and I am assuming that each and every entry of this positive symmetric definite matrix is basically some kind of constant number, and due to that reason I have, by chain rule, P dot doesn't come into picture, but sigma is basically depending on time. Due to that reason, by chain rule I have to first take derivative with respect to sigma, and here also one sigma, so plus P sigma transpose P sigma. So due to that reason, this particular manipulation comes into picture. Now you have to put sigma dot. So try to see that what is my sigma dot, and we know sigma dot I can write like this: phi sigma rho tx p2 sigma, or like that. So directly you can substitute that kind of things here. So I am going to substitute that particular quantity here. So sigma dot, since I know that phi into sigma minus rho tx, this is a scalar quantity, after that p2 into sigma by p2 into sigma absolute of this, and after that I have SB, and after that zeta. So zeta tx I am not going to write, you can understood that zeta tx everything is available here, and after that I have basically, now similarly I have transpose of this, and after that I have to multiply this transpose with P into sigma. So now everything is calculation part, so you have to just see the calculation little bit carefully. Again, this is phi sigma minus rho tx p2 into sigma, p2 into sigma, and basically I have certain kind of uncertain term that is associated with this transpose, and a transpose part is here, so transpose is no longer required now. So this kind of things. Up to here, anyone has confusion? Anyone? Up to here every estimate is clear? Okay, now you try to see that if you multiply this, then since this is transpose of matrix from here to here, so I have A, B, C. So A minus B plus C transpose is A transpose plus minus B transpose plus C transpose. And after that, if you are taking transpose of some quantity that is in multiplication, so basically I have this kind of relation: AB transpose equal to, suppose you have two quantity, and if you will take transpose, then I have this kind of result: B transpose A transpose. Anyone has confusion? If I have transpose, then I can write like this. So if I have addition, then directly I can write A transpose plus B transpose. If I have basically AB transpose, then B transpose A transpose. Okay, so I hope that no one has confusion on this. So due to that reason, I am going to remove this particular thing from here. Now you try to see that I am going to apply transpose. So sigma transpose, phi transpose, and here P and sigma again comes into picture. Similarly, this quantity is a scalar, so transpose of a scalar doesn't matter, and here again I have sigma transpose and P2 transpose by P2 and sigma. This is again a scalar, because modulus of some quantity is always a scalar due to that reason. And after that I have somehow transpose of this whole quantity, and so
Also multiplied by P sigma.
yeah, transpose of this multiplied with P into sigma. And
No, sir,
similarly,
second term, sir.
second, okay, P into sigma. Thank you. And after that, now you can see that similar kind of things here I have phi into sigma minus rho Tx, and after that sigma transpose P, and after that I have sigma transpose P. Basically you can see that I have actually done one mistake here, that basically here I am going to, since P, if I write generalized P, then again I have to select P. So up to here that is not a problem. In last, what you can assume now, P equal to P2. So since P is independent here, so I am going to select this P equal to P2. Okay, so up to here there is no problem. Okay, so okay, write it, and after that I will impose that kind of condition. So sigma transpose again. So here you can see that sigma transpose P phi sigma rho T, and after that I have sigma transpose P, and after that I have P2 into sigma, and after that P2 into sigma, like this. And after that, could you please tell me the next term? What is next term?
SB zeta into sigma transpose P.
So SB
Zeta.
zeta. Okay. Now any other term? I think that everything is now clear. Okay. Now try to see one more thing. Since if I will do like this, then I have to select 2P, and due to that reason I am going to simplify my calculation by selecting this P equal to P2. Okay, so if you simplify this kind of calculation by P equal to P2, then try to observe now what kind of term basically comes into picture. So initially what people are doing, from here onward only people are assuming that P equal to P2, but somehow I forget to assume P equal to P2. Due to that reason, what I have done, after doing calculation, I am going to impose this kind of assumption. So if you are going to make P equal to P2, then you can see here that basically I have this term and I have this kind of term, and P equal to P2 I am going to substitute. So basically I have V dot, that is, now I am going to write, that is sigma transpose, and I have basically, now I do not remember, this is basically sigma transpose then phi transpose P2. So could you please guide me to write terms quickly? I will write then what kind of term is
So
going to come.
phi transpose P into
P2
sigma.
because I am substituting P
Yes,
equal
sir,
to P2, and after that I have one more
so
term,
sigma.
that is basically, now you can see that I am going to group these two terms, this term and this term. So sigma I am going to multiply outside, so sigma
Yes, sir.
transpose is common, and P sigma I have, so P equal to P2, then I have P2 into phi,
Phi
and after that I have
into
sigma,
sigma.
and after that now you try to see that I have in this particular quantity here P sigma and sigma transpose P2 transpose. So is it possible to write this whole quantity as a P2 sigma transpose, this whole quantity? Is it possible to write P2 into sigma transpose?
Yes, sir.
And because the A transpose B transpose equal to AB
Yes,
transpose,
yes,
due to that reason,
yes.
and here you can see that P equal to P2, then what kind of things comes into picture? P2 into sigma a square of this, and below I have P2 into sigma. So a square of this I can also write P2 into sigma a square is equivalent to P2 into sigma absolute value of this a square. Anyone has confusion on this? Because whenever you are writing X transpose X, you are also able to write like this, and due to that reason, due to this relation, basically I am able to write, and below I have, due to that reason, finally I have mod P2 into sigma. So directly I am going to write. If anyone has confusion, then please let me know. Similar kind of things I am going to do here. One more observation is that basically P and P transpose both are equal. P2 equal to P transpose. Why? Anyone? Could you please comment why I am assuming P2 equal to P2 transpose?
Symmetrical, it is
Symmetric
symmetrical.
matrix, and due to that reason intentionally I have selected symmetric matrix. So basically here whatever term coming from here and whatever term coming from here, both are exactly equal. And due to that reason, you can see that second term is basically now that is 2 rho tx and here p2 into sigma. Anyone has confusion on this? And you can also able to understand very easily because v is a scalar. So v is a scalar, even if sigma is vector, but v is a scalar. So v dot should be a scalar. So finally every term after multiplication should be a scalar. And due to that reason, since rho tx I have already assumed that is a scalar, so whatever quantity that is going to reflect here, that should be a scalar. And due to that reason, and same negative sign I have here, and since rho t is a scalar, due to that reason rho equal to rho transpose. And finally if you will club both kind of things, then multiplied by 2. Now let us try to see same kind of logic here. This quantity as well as this quantity is going to create some kind of a scalar only after multiplication. Anyone has confusion? Why this is a scalar? Whole multiplication, why this is a scalar? Because v is a scalar. So v dot also that is a scalar. And here if you see entry s, b, zeta, p, sigma, same kind of entry is here. Due to that reason, this whatever a scalar quantity that is going to generate from here, that is exactly equal to this kind of things. And due to that reason, what you can do, you can either preserve this term or preserve this term, multiplication with 2. Both are exactly equal. And due to that reason, I am going to write this term only. So this term is visible to me. Due to that reason, I am going to write this term. Anyone has confusion on this? Then please let me know. Anyone? Up to here, anyone has confusion? Okay. If you do not have confusion, now you can see that why I have assumed this. Because whenever I am designing control, at that time I have told you that sigma phi transpose p2 and p2 into phi, that should be some kind of identity matrix. Due to that reason, now you can see that I have a structure like negative because minus I, and identity you can write or do not write, that doesn't matter. And after that, and due to that reason, I have forced that kind of condition. And after that 2 sigma transpose p into sb into zeta. Up to here, anyone has confusion? Now try to see that I am also able to write this particular quantity. Now I have to do some kind of manipulation. So before going to do manipulation, I am going to apply some kind of inequality, that is sigma, and after that 2 rho t into sigma. So I have somehow one term that is not sign definite, that is this term. So I am going to make this term as a sign definite. So this is either you can tell this as a norm inequality or some kind of inequality you can tell here. Now you can see that this term is going to support me, sigma transpose sigma, that is always positive, and due to negativity that will support me. But what is restriction of this term? If sigma equal to 0, then this term is going to vanish. So now if I tune this particular quantity, you can see that p2 sigma and sigma transpose p2 is here. At the both place, these two terms are here. Due to that reason, further I can also able to write like this, minus sigma transpose sigma, and after that 2, and I have p2 into sigma. So either you can take say sigma transpose p and do absolute value, or p2 into sigma, both are same. And due to that reason, I have now rho tx and minus some term that is going to come due to sb into zeta, like this. And it is possible to show that since zeta is somehow bounded, if zeta is bounded, so I can tune rho tx such that that is always dominate over this particular inequality. Anyone has confusion on this? What I am assuming that rho tx, or you can assume like this, rho tx I am going to define like this, that is SB zeta, so maximum value of zeta, and plus some term that is d0, some constant. So I am going to define this quantity little bit higher than this particular quantity d0, because inside zeta always I have alpha tx is already there. So if you are going to do that, or you can also write this kind of inequality, that is also fine. Then what happens, I am able to write sigma, and after that I have 2 into p2 into sigma, and after that here you can see that I have some kind of quantity like d0. Anyone has confusion till now? Then please let me know. Anyone? Now if you do not have confusion, then again you have to, for simplification, you have to believe again on me that this inequality will satisfy. Suppose V is sigma transpose P2 into sigma, because I am assuming that P2 equal to, basically P2 is exactly equal to the P. Now it is possible to show that this is bounded by these two quantity. Sigma, so norm of this square, and less than equal to lambda max P sigma square. And you can take two norm, whatever norm you can assume you can take. Most of time people are taking two norm, and this inequality is called Rayleigh inequality. Rayleigh. So please check the spelling of this. I will write, I'm not sure about the spelling of this Rayleigh. So Rayleigh, perhaps this is, so Rayleigh inequality. This is called Rayleigh inequality. So Rayleigh inequality is telling that this particular quantity sigma transpose P2 into sigma is bounded by these two quantity. So again, proof of this I have given in online lecture, but for time being you can believe on me. So now you can see that here I have negative sign. So if I put, and this quantity I can again further able to write this as a sigma square minus 2 P2 into sigma and d0 basically. And from here you can see that if you put negative sign everywhere, then I have lambda max P sigma square less than equal to minus V less than equal to minus lambda mean P and sigma square. I have this kind of inequality. Now what you can do, you have to substitute something that is higher. So from here I can able to write like this, V dot is less than equal to, now I have some kind of quantity that is negative V. Now you can see that always I am going to able to put some kind of maximum quantity, not lesser quantity. I have to, in place of this negative sign is here. So I am going to, whenever we are considering that if this kind of things hold, then other will also hold, and due to that reason I am going to substitute the maximum value here. And you try to see that if you calculate V by some quantity, so maximum eigenvalue, this lambda maximum is maximum eigenvalue of this symmetric matrix P, so V by lambda max P. So basically this quantity is very less, and after that if you are put max mean value, then this is higher. Due to that reason this expression has no problem. And after that now you can see that second expression I have minus 2 P2 and D. So I can also able to write like this. So I have just, now you have to do some kind of manipulation, and I am just performing manipulation now. P2 sigma I have, and after that I have d0 is still positive. Now here again you can see that in place of sigma I am able to put same kind of quantity like V by lambda max P minus 2, here P2 absolute value of this D0, so either that is always positive, so there is no need to put absolute value, and sigma, in place of sigma I can able to put max P power half. Anyone has confusion on this? Up to here anyone has confusion? Anyone? Varda, is it clear to you? Varda, Ruchi, Nidhi, every
Yes,
up to
sir.
here things become, that is just manipulation, nothing nothing more than the manipulation. If you have this kind of things, now you can see that I can also, if you solve this equation also you are able to get finite time. Otherwise you can just write this also, because this part is already negative, so I can left it and I will tell that okay, this is also less than this quantity d0 v by lambda max and power half. So finally you can see that I will come to this kind of equation, v dot less than equal to some gamma with negative sign v power alpha, and you are able to get what is gamma in this particular expression, that is 2p2 norm of this d0, after that lambda max power half, and alpha is 1 by 2. So in this way I am able to prove that in finite time if you apply this kind of control. So now let us come back to here to control directly, because this is mathematical proof, but I have to now come to the conclusion. So conclusion part is basically like this: if I apply this kind of control, if I will apply, and you can see here that if you will apply this kind of control to this particular system, and my system is here, that is x dot equal to ax plus but plus dx x into u, then you are able to force sigma equal to 0 in finite time. That is the conclusion. Anyone has confusion on this? Up to here anyone has confusion? Now
No, sir.
you can see that, but you have to select this. This is the main matrix equality you have to select, because if you are unable to select, then that is difficulty basically comes into picture. So by taking one example, quickly I will tell you that how basically one can design this kind of control such that in multivariable case. Now could you please tell me that if dimension of x is also Rm, it means that dimension of control and dimension of state both are equal, then what kind of result I can derive? Suppose I have 3-dimensional system and 3 control input, and if I apply this kind of control, unit vector control, then what kind of stability we are achieving with respect to equilibrium point? Anyone?
Finite time stability.
Finite time stability. So if I have dimension of control and dimension of state that is exactly equal, and if you apply this unit vector control, then you will get finite time stability in multivariable case. If dimension of state is higher, then you have to again design sliding surface, and it means that in this particular case S become identity whenever dimension of control and dimension of state is exactly equal. So let us actually, in order to save time, what I have done, I have basically retained that kind of example. So I am going to actually see where I have basically keep that example. So please just give me 1 minute. So I am going to actually example. So I have now I am going to talk about one practical example. So Is this interface is visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
So you might have seen that
Yes, sir.
we have several geostationary satellite nowadays, because now I am able to talk to you without due to the satellite only. Otherwise, it is very difficult to talk. So suppose some I have certain kind of geostationary orbit, and I am going to send some kind of satellite to that geostationary orbit. What is my final goal? Finally, once I will get that objective, means once I will get that kind of orbit, then what is our aim? That angular velocity, that should be 0. So whenever some fluctuation comes into picture, then basically angular velocity become non-zero. And you can also able to understand from the Newton's law, first law, that if rate of change comes into picture, then only thing will deviate. So somehow you have to seize the rate of change. So I have to design torque U1, U2 and U tau, that whenever geostationary satellite will fluctuate from their position, then in finite time they will return back to their original basically position. And for that I have this kind of differential equation. So for time being, you can believe on me, I am not going to drive how basically this differential equation comes into picture, because if I have to drive, then again I have to introduce the concept of rotation matrix, and that is another basically topic. And due to that reason, you just see that I1, I2 and I3 is basically moment of inertia, U1, U2 and U3 is the torque, and actually W1, W2 and W3 represents the angular velocity. So I have retained I1, I2 and I3 represent the moment of inertia around the principal axis of the body. So actually in rigid body, I can represent any rigid body using basically 6 dimension, 3-dimensional for translation, 3-dimensional for rotation. So here we are just calculating or worrying about the rotation matrix, and due to that reason I have to just worry about the 3 different moment of inertia and 3 angular velocity I have. I am assuming that I have certain kind of instrument on that satellite. Using that I can able to measure the angular velocity, and U1 and U2 and U3 I am going to design some kind of torque, which torque most of time we are making some kind of arrangement inside satellite such that from the ground station I can control that kind of flexibility we have. Now if you do a state space representation in order to apply some kind of whatever methodology we have explored not just now, that is unit vector control, first I have to express that system into that particular form. And try to see here, could you please comment, is this system is linear or non-linear? I1, I2, I3 all are constant. So what do you think, this system is linear or non-linear?
Non-linear.
Non-linear, because
Square.
Omega 2,
because
omega 3, omega
Omega
3.
due to
square.
this term this is non-linear. Now since fluctuation of angular velocity is very small, due to that reason by designing linear control, because there is no need to worry about whole space, only a small space is enough, and due to that reason we are not assuming that omega 1, omega 2 and omega 3 is going to deviate by very large amount. A small amount that is going to deviate, and due to that reason we are telling that in 3-dimensional space basically, and 3-dimensional space where omega 1, omega 2 and omega 3 is going to lie, that basically somehow remains bounded, and that space I have defined as omega. Omega is subset of basically R3, and that also contain equilibrium point, because somehow I have to push omega 1 equal to 0, omega 2 equal to 0, omega 3 equal to 0. So I have to assume that inside this space basically omega 1 equal to 0, omega 2 equal to 0 and omega 3 all are going to lie here. So now what we have observed till now, that I have to first express the state space equation in form of x dot equal to ax plus bu, and after that, since this is non-linear system, due to that reason I can assume that whatever non-linearity part that is nothing but a state dependent uncertainty, and due to that reason I am assuming zeta x is some kind of state dependent term. So from this particular dynamics you try to see here that I have basically differential equation like this. Here I do not have some kind of term which is directly function of omega 1, omega 2 and omega 3. That is always actually comes into picture as a multiplication of two terms, and due to that reason if you see the ax, where x is nothing but omega 1, omega 2 and omega 3. So could you please tell me what is value of x? Omega 1, omega 2 and omega 3. Could you please suggest me what is value of ax? Because somehow I have to represent ax dot equal to ax plus bu t plus b into zeta and t into x, something like that, because there is no uncertainty associated with control. Due to that reason I am assuming that uncertainty only present with respect to x. Time, there is no uncertainty with respect to time also, because this is somehow force system, and here that is non time varying term is not present. So I can also tell that after designing the control action, this is autonomous system, that is not non-autonomous system. Due to that reason again I can further assume that this part is nothing but beta into zeta into x. So this kind of assumption. Now could you please suggest me what is a into x for this particular system? What is a into x? X is omega 1, omega 2, omega 3. Saptik?
Yes, sir. Means I can't clear, not clear. Means rank means.
Not I am telling rank, because in order to apply unit vector control I have to represent system like x dot equal to ax plus bu plus b zeta into tx. So now I am willing to know that after representing this system what is multiplication of these two quantity a into x, or you can just tell me that what is a. What is entry of a? A is 3 cross 3 matrix. Okay. Anyone has confusion on this?
Oh, yes, it is 3 cross 3 means I was thinking about what is the quantity of A.
So quantity you have to tell. What is quantity?
Yes.
Ruchi, what is quantity of A?
Sir, there is no separate term depending on omega 1, omega 2, omega 3.
So what is this? This is nothing but 0. If no,
yes, sir.
This kind of quantity is
Yes,
not present, then this is 0, na? So that is very
Yes,
simple
sir.
answer. So this is 0, and now
Yes, sir.
b into ut. So you can see that b. So here I have multiplication of I1, I2 and I3. I am assuming that moment of inertia is non-zero quantity, and due to that reason I have some kind of matrix that is associated with I1, I2 and I3, and due to that reason this term comes into picture. Obviously this term is there because I have multiplication of two states. So what I am telling that finally I have system representation that doesn't contain any term, that is multiplication of a and xt. So I have but, where b is nothing but like this, 1 by I1, 1 by I2, 1 by I3. Since here I have multiplication on this side, due to that reason this side is also affected, and this kind of matrix also comes into picture, and after that I have this kind of multiplication. Now you can see that I am assuming that zeta x, because this term multiplication of this, but I have already told you that whenever I am in three-dimensional space, so my satellite is basically doing circulation around some specific orbit, and I am assuming that deviation is very small. It means that whatever deviation or whatever multiplication term comes into picture, I can again assume that that is bounded. Obviously that bond is function of all state, but I can able to, same like compact set, I am telling okay, whatever variation that is going to lie in compact set, then whatever control mechanism I have actually chosen before sending the satellite, that is going to come into picture. If some big deviation comes into picture, then I cannot save my satellite, but at least some tolerance limit I can able to save my satellite. Due to that reason, I am telling that I will save my satellite up to this particular region, that is C. C is some kind of constant. Now you can design again sliding surface sigma equal to S into X, and again now you can see that our goal to stabilize the equilibrium point X equal to 0 of the satellite in finite time, because whenever satellite will disturb from their position, and if in finite time you are unable to maintain it, then your whatever broadcasting or something that is going to disturb, and due to that reason I have to do this job in finite time. Due to that reason we are going to apply some kind of finite control action. If you see the unit vector control, then at that time I have basically one term that is associated with matrix A, but matrix A is not present. Due to that reason I have just one term that is associated with phi. So inside control I am just going to apply A equal to 0, and after that I am going to write it exactly. Now you can see that one more important thing here. If I select S, that is diagonal of I1, I2, I0, it means that I have I1 0 0 0, I1, I2 0 0 0, I3. I can design sliding coefficient of sliding surface in any way that basically not comes into picture due to some kind of system parameter. I can select it independently, but cleverly I have to select it. And you can see that I know the B matrix. So if I select S that is like this, then multiplication of SB is nothing but identity, because if you see B matrix, then B is basically diagonal matrix, and each entry is 1 by I1, 1 by I2, 1 by I3. So if you do not select S equal to I1, I2 and I3, then what happens? Unnecessary, you have to make your control little bit complex. And if you select SB inverse, that is just identity matrix, so somehow these two terms disappear from your control action, and due to that reason I have selected like that. Now let us come to the story of selection of phi and basically P2. From here you can see that somehow this matrix equality should be satisfied. Now if I select phi equal to half of identity matrix, identity 3 cross 3 matrix, and P2 equal to I, it is possible to check that this equality is satisfied. Most of time, please be careful whenever we are solving this Lyapunov equality. So I have generalized inequality like this: P2 into phi plus phi transpose P2, and that is equal to minus Q. So first we are selecting Q, and if I know P, it is possible to show that always there exists P2. So this kind of result is there. So if you heard the lecture, then you are able to understand this kind of things. I am not going to detail of this. I am just telling that I have to satisfy this inequality. So by heat and trial, I have selected P2 equal to I and phi equal to half. So finally what happens? This equality will satisfy. So I know now phi, I know P2. So I am going to substitute that particular quantity inside this. So I know that phi is again identity matrix. I know S. Now I have to just select value of rho x, that is state dependent. So how to do selection? So from Lyapunov analysis I am able to understand. So again I will take Lyapunov function sigma transpose P sigma, or P2 sigma you can write, that doesn't matter. And after that you can see that if you will write, then same kind of analysis comes into picture, and basically I am able to show that if I select rho that is greater than C, and what is C? C, you can see that my region of deviation. So maximum up to this region basically my state is allowed to go. So if I select gain that is greater than C, then it is possible to show that after this much deviation also, if I apply this amount of control, then what happens? my satellite again come back to original orbit. So in this way I can design control for the, or control means here nothing but torque, to control the deviation of satellite. So what is homework now associated with this? You know the control, you know the mathematical model, so please develop some kind of simulation program using MATLAB such that it is possible to show that omega 1, omega 2 and omega 3 equal to 0. So that is exercise for you. Anyone has confusion till now? Do you have any confusion in unit vector control or how to design sliding mode control for multivariable case? Anyone? Sunidhi,
Yes, sir. No,
do you
sir.
have any confusion?
No, sir. No, sir.
So now in next class, what I am going to do, I am going to apply. Suppose now what we have seen, that dimension of a state and dimension of control both are exactly same in multivariable case, then I can achieve the finite time stability. Now suppose dimension of a state that is higher than control, then again how to design sliding surface such that by designing control I can actually reach to the sliding surface, and after that we will slide along the sliding surface. So I will take help of two approaches. First approach is I have to analyze the reaching phase. So for reaching phase I am going to apply the multivariable case, multivariable control or unit vector control, and during sliding I can apply any state feedback control. So that kind of things I am going to tackle in the next lecture. So now this lecture is closed from my side. If you have any confusion, then please let me know. Ruchi, do you
Sir,
have any
no
confusion?
confusion. Sir, this simulation we have to submit, sir.
Yeah, please do. And most of time whenever I am talking telling about homework, then please do it
Yes, sir.
ready, because that is basically helpful for me to doing grade whenever I am doing grading in the last
Yes, sir.
of this course, in final examination, then that become helpful to me. And due to that reason means whenever I am telling some exercise, home assignment, please do by yourself, and either you can send to me on email or you can upload on whatever uploading link that is provided on Google Classroom. Both are okay. I remember that Saptik is already sent one tutorial to me that is related to finite time.
But later MATLAB problems due to connection glitches, I have not I was not able to write the which was problem. That means the DC motor control constant frequency, constant current. When Vardha sent me to MATLAB problems, I have not got, because in ninth lecture there was a simulation regarding the DC motion control. Yes. Now, which one? What should I do? Means what kind of simulation I have to submit?
So actually, if you check that
Sir, I do
simulation,
not.
so actually, if you see the DC motor control, then at there we have two different way. I can control the current, and after that, by controlling current, I can able to control the angular speed. Another way, I can directly control the angular speed also. So for
Yes,
all
sir.
two,
Means the relative degree control is for the direct omega control, and the previous class there is a current control for coupling the
also please
two
repeat those two simulation by yourself. Everyone
Yes,
try
sir.
to
Okay,
repeat
sir.
that. Then you are able
Okay, sir.
to understand. You are able to gain. If you have any confusion, then you are able to ask to me, and then I am also able to understand that where basically you are lacking, and then I will tell you further hints or some more link I will provide to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anyone, any means any other student? Krishna.
Yes, sir.
Now are you become comfortable with finite time stability of a scalar case, multivariable case, both?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So similarly, if you
Sir,
have,
just
uh, please go ahead.
I'm minor doubt. I think why are we even bothering to select S? Because we are anyways like if I select S as B inverse, then my that expression will become identity, right?
No, actually what happens, most of case, if you see B matrix, that is not a square matrix.
Okay, sir. Okay, okay.
So and invertibility, then again you have to play with pseudo inverse or this kind of things, and due to that reason people are writing SB inverse. So
Okay.
now you can design S matrix such that finally multiplication of SB becomes some kind of a square matrix, and you know that invertibility of a square matrix is always easier.
Yes, sir.
But obviously I can talk about the invertibility of some kind of non-square matrix, but for that again we have to go for pseudo inverse. That is complication, or somehow that will enlarge my gains also sometime.
Yes,
So
sir.
so
Okay, sir.
most of time we try to do some kind of simplification. Most of time means whenever we are talking about control design, at that time we are also giving equal emphasis towards the selection of gain such that some easier way comes into picture, like that.
Okay, sir.
Any other student? Sunidhi, are you able to do homework? Because you all are PhD student, so I am not actually doing same kind of things those I am doing for bachelor degree student. In bachelor degree student, most of time I am forcing that okay, you can do this, do this, do this, but most of you all are PhD student or master, more than higher than the bachelor student, so you have to become self motivated. So whenever I am telling something as a home assignment, so please try to do, and after that in weekend or any time if you have, then please send to me. Okay,
Sir, by mail, sir.
by
Because,
mail,
sir,
that is
I
also
don't
okay.
find any link.
Actually today's I have basically created one link,
Yes, sir.
so
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so I
That
will
I can.
create 2 and 3 more links also, and after
Yes,
that
sir.
means just please make sure that you have learned. That is the main objective of this course.
Yes.
Okay, so if you do not have any question, then I am going to close the today's discussion.
Sir, sir, we have medicine from 22nd or what, sir?
Okay, for mid same what I will do, I will tell you that
Yes,
means I will give one system to each and every student, and after that I will tell you to design whatever you have learned. You have to design, you have to do analysis, like that. In that way, you are able to understand that
the
how to design.
MATLAB, sir.
You have to do both kind of things. You have to do analytically, and after that you have to implement it. And obviously I will give you 1 week or more than 1 week.
Yes.
So in this way, because what is
Okay,
my
sir.
main objective, and I have already told you, try to select some kind of problem where that is little bit challenging. Then equally at the equally Calol also you can do, because that become master thesis for you. So try to select some kind of challenging problem where by searching the literature, such that you are able to design sliding mode control, and end of the day you are also able to do some kind of publication. Since this in this course number of students is not so many, so if you will do, then I am able to check each and every simulation, each and every exercise, and if something is good for application point of view, then you are able to publish, particularly for power system, power electronics, machine, means if you apply the theory, whatever theory that is developed inside literature, then also you can able to get some kind of publication, at least good conference you are able to get. This is good for you. Whenever you are writing paper, then you are able to understand everything, most of thing you are able to understand. So that is my approach.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so now I am going to